rolling?
What's up, you guys? Hey, everybody.
What are we doing?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's for Downey.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. This was supposed to be my Valentine's Day video, but I didn't do it because, I don't know, I just didn't. So we're doing it now. We are answering your relationship advice questions that you sent in back in February. Are you excited?
Yes. Shout out to Alyssa Riley for her question of when am I gonna shave my facial pubes?
You wanna get up in there, show them your pube tour, face pube tour. Wow.
Would you believe that this is the fullest my facial hair has ever been?
Ever.
So either one of three things. We're either gonna be out of quarantine, and then I'll shave, because I just haven't shaved since quarantine, so there you go. We get sponsored by Dollar Shave Club.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Or I get a full beard. And then once I have proven to myself that I can actually grow something, then I have nothing left to prove.
We started a podcast 2 years ago, but we're just now releasing the episodes. So go subscribe on Google Play, Apple, iTunes, and Spotify into podcast. So yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. Well, anyone watching this knows I'm not ashamed of only plugging myself. That's all my social media is anymore. It's being like, will you please pay attention to me? So, someone wrote in wanting us to talk about how with my allergies, navigating dating relationships with food allergies, basically.
Period.
Yeah.
Oh,
advice?
like
What do we do?
How to do?
Yeah.
I've never made Katie go into anaphylactic shock, so that's a win. And it's not that hard. So immediately, you notice what you're eating a lot more than usual, because like you can't just snack on peanuts. Like you have to remember, oh crap, I ate a tiny little dessert at a party that had eggs in it. So like, oh, we can't kiss. But it's also not that hard because a downfall of that is Katie and I can't kind of spontaneously kiss, and Katie certainly doesn't initiate because it's always dangerous for her.
Yeah.
But we're affectionate enough that I've never found that to be a problem. Cause like if you never would touch me or hug me or whatever, that'd be hard.
Right.
But you just don't kiss.
Right.
Or if she goes in, she's like, ooh, and she'll always stop right here. What have you eaten today?
Or sometimes we just have to do this. Yeah.
Which I know, it's awful
but
to watch. But we got no other option, I'm sorry.
And if you're someone who gets to kiss your partner whenever you want to, like...
Lucky.
You gotta just figure out
what
you can do that's affectionate. Because like, you can't just go and brush your teeth all the time. And technically, for allergies as life-threatening as mine, experts say to wait 4 hours after eating something that the person's allergic to and brush your teeth. So it's not just like, oh, let me go brush my teeth real quick. And if we're not 100% sure,
then the test, which we don't have to do that often anymore.
We almost never do it now,
but really
when we first started dating.
Yeah, because I wasn't as good at keeping track, and so I'd be like, I might have had something, I can't really remember. Whereas nowadays,
especially like pre-living together, because like we felt we're pretty independent still compared to some other couples I know, but like, especially then, we're so independent that it was like, oh, I didn't even, I wasn't thinking about it when we didn't live together.
I hadn't considered.
Yeah.
So the trick is, I'd grab Katie's wrist. Oh, hello, Coach Reba.
Coach Reba! Ooh!
Give it a big lick, and then Katie would wave it around. What does that feel like? Like a pregnancy test or something? I don't know. You can't wave those around. You just
Polaroid?
Yeah, probably more like that.
And then you're waiting for it.
You know how you're waiting Polaroids
for the
to
hives,
make it show up?
You're waiting for the hives to develop.
That's exactly what it is.
And then I'd be like, oh, hives, can't kiss.
Or she'd just feel itchy.
Yeah.
Which was a really nice excuse for her, because she could just be like, ooh, no, I'm itchy. Ooh, can't kiss, sorry.
Yeah, because he's yucky.
But there were
gross.
A lot of times, I'd say my dental health was the best it's ever been in like the first 12 months of Katie and I dating.
Yeah.
Because
I will say, no cap, as the kids are saying. I don't even know if I use that right. Your teeth have gotten so much wider since we've started dating, or like since we got together, than when we first started dating.
I also use whitening strips, so that's cheating.
But also you're brushing your teeth way more.
I don't know about way more, but definitely like more than the average person, I would say.
More than me.
The average person is twice a day.
Yeah.
And there are several days where I'm doing it 3. And when we were dating,
it was all the
4.
time, because you know, you're like so excited to smooch a Rooney. When/how did you know? Were there any specific signs or feelings?
Katie still doesn't know.
Yeah, I'm still not sure.
I've tricked her and held her here against her will.
I'm laughing, but I'm not having fun.
Man, this one's tough because you don't want to like inject your vision now. You know what I mean? Like, I can look back and be like, oh, it was the first time that we went to that formal and that's when I knew. But like, I didn't know I was gonna get married to this girl.
No.
But there was something there. Like, immediately I felt an intense spark connection, which is why I wanted to date her so bad. But then even after that, for those who know the story, it took like 6 months after, and I always still was like, man, that sucks. Like, I still really like her, but I just have to not think about it because it'll make me sad. But I would say that I knew when I loved Katie at a very specific moment, and I'd say that was probably the same moment of like, this is probably gonna work, is we went to go visit her grandma, and I saw a really tender and powerful side of Katie that I don't know I got to see in another experience. So when you're dating, it's like, yeah, she filled all these boxes, like we can communicate, I think she's intelligent, I think she's funny, she's nice, she's a really good kisser. And then there was a moment of like, her and her mom had to help her grandma into a wheelchair, and that whole day, I saw what a future with someone would look like. Like, oh, I'm starting to see how you might treat kids. I'm gonna see how you're gonna treat your mom. I'm gonna see how you might treat me if I'm sick.
Or your parents.
Yeah, and it was just a cool, more adult moment, I guess. I don't think you think about that stuff when you're younger.
I was like barely 20 when we started dating, right? Or maybe I was about to turn 21. I don't remember.
Somewhere around there.
But we were, I mean, that's very young to, you know, you are still a kid, most of the time. I think there are some 20-year-olds that are more mature, but I very much felt like a kid at 20. So, for me, I think like Alex said, there were like, I had like a list or whatever. So there were like things that mattered to me that he like checked boxes of. Like, I really wanted to be with someone who had a good relationship with their parents. That was really important. I wanted someone who was like, I really liked the idea of specifically a drummer, but I wanted something kind of creative or musical. I wanted someone that I thought was like, had a good sense of humor. I wanted someone that I thought was interesting. Because I've always kind of been like, well, like, you're not pretty forever. So I want it to be someone that I feel like is really, hopefully, interesting forever, because like, someday you're like old, and when you're in your 80s,
you're gonna get trapped in the house with this person.
Yeah, God, one day there might be
so I hope they're tolerable.
Global pandemic that you have to be trapped in your house with your spouse all the time. We've talked about that a lot lately, where we're like, dang, I'm seeing all these memes of people being like, when you want to murder your husband or whatever, and we are both just like,
yo, you're with the wrong person.
Yeah.
That's like the point of getting married. Of like, oh yeah, you're my best friend. I love hanging out with you and talking with you, and if I'm trapped in the house with you, it should be fun. And
quarantine hacks. I think communicating, because like, Alex and I don't want to do the same things all the time. Like, I want Alex to watch 1,000 movies with me a day. Like, I want to watch 4 movies in a row, and he just doesn't want to do that. So I think learning to be like, they're not rejecting you if they don't want to sit and watch 4 movies with you, you know?
Yeah, pros on both sides.
Yeah.
Me being direct
So direct,
although,
yeah.
so direct.
So direct. But that's good. Like,
I don't want to do
we're
that.
so not.
Okay, bye.
We're so not passive aggressive. Like,
No.
we're really. I'm like, get away from me, please. But it's never like grumpy. Like,
No.
it's never mean or grumpy. It's just like, no, absolutely not. No, I don't want to.
Well,
do
and
that.
you know that it's
Yeah.
not you, it's the thing.
No, yeah. Yeah. We play a lot of bean battles.
That too. Find things that you like.
Yeah, so find things you can do together.
What's the
Find
question,
things that you...
Now we're just talking about quarantine.
Well, I felt like a good time to have a quarantine hack.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like, find things that you both think are fun. Like, another thing we've been loving doing is like sitting outside and reading books together, and like, and I like talking about my books and not letting him read his and being like, let me tell you what I'm thinking about my book.
Yeah.
Our dogs have honestly really helped the quarantine feel better.
That's always a good activity.
Anyway, back to when did I know? I don't know that I had a moment that I like, he checked a lot of boxes. He had a great relationship with his mom. He like, basically he checked all my boxes. We could talk for hours and hours and hours. Like our first few dates, both times, I think we talked for like 4+ hours nonstop. And we're both pretty introverted. We're pretty extroverted introverts, but like we're introverts at the end of the day. So like being able to talk to someone for that long and not, boy, wanna end it all, like that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I knew it was like, for me it was less of like a feeling where I was like, oh yeah, he feels like the one. And for me, which is funny because I'm so emotional that I always thought that I would have that reaction to meeting my spouse, where I would like have this gut feeling or like, and mine actually ended up being much more logical. And I think that made sense for me, where I was like, I can't trust, not that I can't trust my emotions, but just being like, it's not necessarily emotion based, it should be a practical decision. Which I was like, is this a person that like I think is gonna be a good dad? Is this a person I think is gonna be there for me, like if in tragedy? Like, is this someone that I think I can trust wholeheartedly? Like, do I trust this person? Do I know this person loves me? And I think that's when I knew I wanted to get married, is I was like, I think Alex loves me more than anyone else in the whole world loves me. And like, and I'm very fortunate, and I think my parents love me like so much, and I have really felt that. And so being like, does this person love me as much as my parents loves me? And that was it for me. It was being like this, I never doubt for 1 second, excuse me, I never doubt for 1 second that this person loves me and would like do anything for me. So that's what it was for me, was when I knew I could trust him with my whole life. Next question.
It is worth saying, because a lot of people probably don't know our full marriage story, because we got engaged super early, but then we were engaged for a long time, and we fought a ton during our engagement, and even had like a come to Jesus
Our
counseling.
first year of dating, we fought at least once a week, like a pretty big fight.
Yeah.
And our whole engagement, we probably didn't fight quite that much, but we still fought like cats and dogs. Like, we fought a lot. Anyway, go ahead.
But
we had a come to Jesus moment, like, and I would almost call it an intervention.
Somewhat. More wisdom of my parents of being like, hey, you both told us some things that are worth thinking about if you're gonna get married to this person. Like, you guys need to work this out, or you shouldn't get married, based on what you've both been telling us. And that's really helpful, and hopefully you have those kind of people in your life. But even if you know, right? So even if I knew, someone still was like, hey, by the way, maybe you should not do this. Like, let's just think about things and work stuff out. And maybe it was after that I'd say, oh, okay, we should get married. But that's when we're engaged, maybe, what was that, 3 months before the wedding?
Oh, dude, I think it was like a month, because I was in my summer classes, and I was only in my summer classes for like a month. So it might have been like a month before we got married, because it feels like everything came to a head a month before, and it was like, holy crap, we're about to get married. It's the summer.
Figure stuff
it
out.
was because school was over. It was the summer we were getting married. So it was May or June, and we got married mid-July. But we're also both really lucky. Another thing for me that was just really important, it was marrying into a family that I liked, because like they become your family. Like that's who you spend freaking Christmas with. Like I was like, is this, and I'm an only child, so I'm so close to my parents, and it was like, this is gonna have to be a really cool family for me to be down with, like missing out on time with my family for. And I found that. Like Alex's family feels like my family just as much as my own family does. And it was cool that I was able to go to his parents when we were engaged and saying like, I'm mad at Alex for whatever blank, you know, and to have them be incredibly supportive of me.
Yeah.
Cause like, I'm sorry.
She's like that.
If you went to my mom and you're like, I'm so mad at Katie, like she's being a jerk, my mom would be like,
you're a jerk.
Katie's always right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably not true. My mom's not that. My mom's can
She's
be
objective, but loves you very much.
She loves me a lot.
Yeah.
Where like your parents were like, oh yeah, we've had fights like that with Alex. You know, like they were so supportive of me. And also, we both had the thing that was a game changer. We both had people in our life that, like, again, the summer before we got married, I had some of Alex's friends sit me down and say like, no one's gonna be mad at you if you back out. Mm-hmm. And that sounds crazy, but that was like super freeing for, I'm sure both of us, to have everyone in our lives be like, no one's gonna be mad at you. There's no pressure. You do what you wanna do. If you guys wanna get married, like you have our blessing. And if you wanna back out, you have our blessing there too. Like one of Alex's best friends told me that. He was like, no one's gonna be mad at you if you don't wanna get married. You know, you're 21 years old, 22 years old. Like, it's okay if you don't wanna get married. But we did anyway, and it was great.
So maybe all that to say,
have a good support system.
well, you'll have moments where you think you know, like pretty well that you know, and throughout the entire process, up until the end, you're gonna have a second thought.
Yeah.
And maybe even when you're married, you're gonna be like, should we have done this? But then, I actually haven't felt that way since being married.
Haven't either.
But we hear
every
stories from our married friends, and like, after a certain amount of time, you might go through a period of like,
was this a mistake?
Man.
Or
yeah,
or
just
is this
rethinking your life.
Yeah. I will say, the whole time before we got married, every time we got in a fight, I was like, let's just break up. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So, relationships are really hard.
Yeah.
So I think that someone being the one is just a crock. I don't think that that's real.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. And you just do, if you want to be with a person, you just got to choose it, is my personal opinion. You got to decide for yourself, like, I want to be with this person. I'm going to do what it takes to make it work. I'm going to put the work in. And hopefully they're giving you that back, because I don't know how you do it. That's another reason I chose Alex, is I was like, I feel like he's never going to give up. Out of the two of us, like, I'm a quitter and he's not, and that was really comforting to me, to be like, this is a person who's gonna fight for our marriage until the very end, you know. And I really trust, again, that's part of my trust thing, is I was like, is this a person I can trust to fight for me?
Well said. That can be dangerous advice.
Yeah,
so,
that worked for me, but.
Cause, you know, either way, it's gonna be hard, and you're just gonna have to rely on your support system and just wisdom and what your inner intuition probably says about the situation. Because we might just say, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter, just pick someone and commit. And like, that's not the best advice.
No.
But also,
well,
saying that eventually it's gonna happen and you'll know, like, that is unlikely.
Yeah, I didn't ever feel that way. I never had a moment of like, oh yeah, I'm confident.
It's a good frickin' luck.
Yeah, but here's what else I think is a game changer for our marriage. Enneagram and Myers-Briggs. Knowing personality types and maybe love languages, but I rely on that less. but I know people that it works for. But for me, Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, and knowing my partner and having him know me,
and you knowing you,
and me knowing me, whatever, like knowing your own triggers, knowing your partner's triggers, and then being able to be like, hey, this is a thing that makes me upset, and being able to articulate that and communicate. And that was a huge game changer. So I would recommend that to anybody dating, is learn your Enneagram and your Myers-Briggs and life. It's how it helps how I interact with my parents. It helps how I interact with my in-laws. Like, it helps how I interact with my friends, my coworkers.
It makes your life so much easier.
I'm on the train. So yeah, know your partner, know people's Enneagrams and know your own, and know.
Had to switch the tapes.
Had to switch the tapes. So who knows what we were saying. But all I know is that I want to add, you can choose someone that you think is going to be like a good dad and a good husband and is going to fight for you and all that stuff I said. But also, if you don't want a bone, don't marry them. Because I think you can, like, because I kind of was like, I made like practical decisions, and I felt like I should clarify. Where I'm like, absolutely, I made like practical choices where I wasn't just like, oh, this person is hot and we have fun. Like I tried to make long-term decisions where I was like, I need to choose things in a partner that will outlive looks or outlive, I don't know. But things that I felt like had longevity into being elderly. But also, you need to be sexually attracted. Because I feel like sometimes people are like, especially in the environments we grew up in, I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, I chose someone who is like all of the things that I think that they should be and that my community tells me that they should be.
Yeah.
Like, he's my perfect guy on paper, but then they're like not attracted. So choose someone that probably, I'd like to think that that goes without saying, but I don't think it does. I don't think it does. But then on the other side, don't.
And that should be in your criteria. And
yes.
That's not shameful.
Oh, I've had so many talks with like friends in college about that, where you're like, there's some type of shame in being sexually attracted to someone, and you were designed to be sexually attracted to people, and you can do with that what you will. Like, maybe you don't have sex before you get married, maybe you do, but like, you were created to want to do that. That's very normal from a Christian perspective and from a non-Christian perspective, like a science perspective. Both of those things, hopefully people are telling you that you're allowed to be attracted to people. But I think that, yeah, I think people don't always feel like they are allowed to be, but you are. And that's good, and that should be on your list. Or don't make a list, whatever, but if you have a list, that should be on there. Shoot, I thought I had one more thing to say about that. Oh, but on the other end, I was gonna say, also don't just choose someone that you have the hots for. Have some balance. They gotta be more than hot. Because I think sometimes you're like, well,
they gotta be smoking hot.
Yeah, they gotta be more than hot. They gotta be smoking. But I do think that there is that level of like, oh, well, we're so passionate, we can get through it. Like, or like, and
which is fine if you're just dating.
Oh,
if you're dating for fun, like, yeah,
people might not tell you that. I am on board, but yeah.
If you're gonna get married though, you have to assume that at some point you're gonna go through a phase where your passion is.
As dark as it sounds, some of my criteria was like, let's say something horrible happens and like you or your partner can't have sex anymore, like whatever, like a disease of some kind, or you're in a wheelchair, or like you get injured, whatever. Are you still gonna have?
Falls off.
Yeah, if your dick falls off, are you still gonna wanna be together? Honestly.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
It's important.
Yeah, so if your dick falls off, do you still wanna hang out? Forever. Forever. Anyway. Answer is yeah, I like hanging out, so.
A fun aside, since we mentioned Myers-Briggs and Enneagram, I am an Enneagram 3, We also sometimes think that I'm a 1. And Myers-Briggs, I am more than likely an INTJ, although some friends and family think ENTJ, and some think that neither of those are true. Katie is a...
I think I test as an ENFP because I
process out loud.
And I like speaking, I like public speaking. So I test as an ENTJ, but
ENFP.
Oh my god, that was so weird.
Yeah.
I test as an ENFP, but I'm probably an introvert. I think I'm an introvert. So, INFP, but I have some INFJ, some strong INFJ qualities, so I'm not totally convinced. Anyway.
And you're a 9, for sure.
I'm without a doubt a 9, wing 8. I like wings still. I really identify with a lot of 8 traits, but I'm definitely a 9.
And if these letters and numbers mean nothing to you, I get that it's all made up mumbo jumbo. I'm the first one to admit that, of like, we just made it up
Right.
and just kind of put people into boxes. But it has no scientific basis of like brain chemistry of how like you're this and not this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's helpful.
It's so helpful.
That's all we're trying to say. So
Yeah,
go
definitely.
look it up.
Okay. Our next one is, my husband is a really sweet man, but he's a total homebody and rarely wants to go out on a date night, to a movie, out to eat, or on a vacation. What can I do to encourage him to go out of the house and do something with me? Well, you married the perfect person for quarantine because you can't do any of those things. Bye. Thanks for watching.
Great question.
Just
Next
kidding.
one.
No, just kidding. We can talk about it.
My
Play
initial
game battles. Find new hobbies.
That is one of them. Of like, okay, why do you want to go out so bad? It's probably because that's a mutual activity, like going out to eat or going to see a movie or
And also
going and
because
doing a thing.
going out is really fun.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fun activity, and that's what a lot of normal people do.
But at the core of it, if you're going on a date, it's because that's a mutual activity that you're both enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the most important part of this question, of like, make sure that you have other things that you both mutually enjoy and like to do. The other one is, I would dig deeper on why your significant other doesn't want to go out. So that could be, I don't know, just general fears about the world, or maybe that's a self-esteem thing of like, I don't like to be bad at stuff, so I don't want to try new stuff. So rather than maybe just continually encouraging them to try new things, or even nag them to try and do new things, or force them, you have to get to the bottom of like, seems like there might be some fear here, what's going on?
Yeah, and I think the other one for me is like, why, what is your motivation to like, do you actually want to go out, or is it because you see other people going out? Like, I think there's always like this thing where you're like, oh, I see other couples doing whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you even gonna have, like, for me, I'm like, is it gonna be fun if you make a person who doesn't want to do something? Like, oh, cool, my partner went to friggin' adventure golf with me, but he hated it and wanted to go home the whole time. Like, that blows. I don't want to do that. So I'd rather have, for me, I think my number one priority is like, how can I have the most fun with my partner, and finding a way that you can both have fun.
Yeah.
And not worrying about like, oh, but everybody else is going to whatever. Everybody else is going to on trips or something, you know? Or I don't know. Or finding like local trips, like changing your definition of things. And I mean, there has to be compromise on both ends. It definitely shouldn't just be you compromising, like he should compromise too. But yeah.
And you might be surprised, I don't know about this specific situation, but your partner might think that you are compromising. So there might be things that they are doing for you that they don't enjoy, and they've been doing this whole time. And then if you ask them to do something, then they're like, well, no, like, I don't want to do that, and you say no to me when I want to do stuff, so like, this is our compromise. So I think that just needs to be talked about.
So yeah, maybe just having a conversation about like what that looks like. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. Like asking your partner, like, in what ways do you feel like you're compromising? That's a good one. I just didn't even think about it. But I feel like that's a good one. I feel like you and I thought about that years ago. Not anymore as much, but like years ago, being like, I feel like I'm doing all this stuff for you, and you're like, not.
Well, and that's classic. That's scoreboarding.
Oh, yikes.
And anytime you feel like you are scoreboarding, you should talk about it. And a good example of that.
And we do.
Yeah, a good example, because I generally tend to be the person that wants things tidier than Katie.
I'm a total slob. For sure.
But also difference of expectations. Like one person's normal of like, no, this is clean, could be different from the other person. But
or like I care about different things being clean, where I'm like, why is this dirty? And it's like the dumbest, you know, whatever. Just different. Yeah.
But you bring that up and I'm like, hey, I seem to always be the one doing the dishes. And she says, well, that's because I hate doing the dishes. It's gross. And if you eat anything that I'm allergic to, I'm always like, oh, I don't even want to put my hands in that because I don't know what's been on this stuff. But she happens to love unloading the dishwasher.
Yeah, because I have a very specific opinion about where things go.
Yeah. And I'm someone who enjoys optimizing how you load the dishwasher. So rather than that being one chore of do the dishes, and then me being like, I'm always doing the dishes, you bring it up and say, hey, I feel like I tend to be doing the dishes rightfully at the beginning, and then just saying, what if we did this? And then we talked about it. And now the dishes are pretty much always done.
We have a great system.
Yeah, and neither of us are doing something that we hate doing.
Yeah. If only there was something like that for laundry, but I hate all of it. So I just don't do it, and I just hide my clothes in the spare room, and then I run out of socks. And I go, can I borrow your socks? And he's like, where are your socks?
Absolutely not. I know how much clothes you have.
And I'm like, I don't have any. Look at my drawer. They're gone. And then he lets me borrow his socks anyway. As a couple, is it healthy/necessary to share all personal struggles with them? Or are there some things that are better to battle alone / with another resource, such as a parent or a friend? When resourcing outside of the relationship, is it still better to share your journey through it with your partner?
My initial reaction is that I don't think anything should be hidden. So even if, let's say that I need to go to therapy, I need to go to counseling, maybe even I just want to talk to my parents about something. If I'm having a struggle, if I am struggling with something, I think your partner should be looped in on that. But it doesn't fall on your partner to help you through that thing. Necessarily.
That's good.
I think they should be a great support system, and if you need their help on something, but there are some issues where like you're gonna need a professional or you're gonna need someone with more life experience, and it's just unrealistic to put that kind of expectation on your partner. And so if you need help, yes, go seek a solution with some other source, but at the same time, I don't think any of that should be secret from your partner. Like if I just came home and was like, hey, I'm addicted to blank, and I've been seeing a counselor for 6 months about it. Like, that's, even if I was done with it, and I said, I used to be addicted, but I've been going to this thing, now I'm better, doesn't that feel bad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I already solved it with someone other than you, but if through the process I'm like, hey, I don't really want to talk about it, but I'm going to counseling for this thing, and then you're like, oh, okay. So at least you know, but it's not your job to help me through it. Yeah. That's, I could process more, but.
My gut reaction is a little bit different, but I love your points, which makes me like reevaluate mine, but I'll tell you my gut reaction anyway. My gut reaction is like, I agree, no big picture hiding things, because absolutely, if you came home and you're like, hey, I've been secretly dealing with this thing for so long, but now it's like handled, I would be like, what? Because there's a level of like, I don't even know you, you know? Yeah. So I agree, like, that's not the way to go about it. But also, I think that maybe like on a small scale or something, like let's say it's just like let's say it's just a tiny thing. I can't even think of a good example, but I think it's okay to be like, I'm just gonna call my mom about this because maybe it's not a huge struggle, maybe it's just like an annoyance. So I think gauging a scale, because if it's like, I'm addicted to narcotics,
that's a big deal. Yeah.
Versus like, I hate that he shits the bed.
We came up with ground rules before we recorded, and it was don't share that Alex shits the bed. That was the first thing we said.
Then maybe I just call my mom. And I go, this is nasty. You know, and then she's like, it's not that big of a deal. Poop is poop. Everybody poops. I'm just kidding. That's not a good example. But
I, on the front end, would disagree on that. If it's a marital thing, if it's between us,
yeah,
it has to continue to be us. If it's your thing, if you like wanted to call your mom about something that happened at work.
Oh, changing it. You know what? I changed my mind. I agree. If it's marital, you should, or it doesn't have to be marriage. If it's a me and my partner thing, keep it between you and your partner, and then you guys together can go outside for advice. Like, because we've done that with your parents or whatever, where we've been like, here's what we're going through or whatever, and then they talk to us separately, and then maybe they talk to us together. But like, here's our side separately, because it's hard. Sometimes if we're having an active disagreement, there are times where you want to be like, I just need to tell you my whole entire side without this person sitting next to me. You know, so that's fine. But then I think you bring it all back in together and you're like, oh, now we can talk about it because we've had outside advice and now we're ready. But you're keeping each other in the loop. If it's something separate, like with all this quarantine stuff, work has been crazy, learning how to work from home. And so like, I vented to Alex about it, but I don't always want advice from Alex because sometimes
Rarely does your spouse want advice from you.
Certainly in our case, and
especially
maybe always.
male, female.
Yeah, as a girl, for me, and I'm sure that there are men like this, maybe it's just like me extroverting, I don't know. Often I just want to vent to Alex, but sometimes I often don't want advice, I just want to vent, and he has been a great like sounding board.
I've learned my lesson.
Well, yeah, used to cause fights. And then I did want advice from my mom, but sometimes my mom gives advice when I just want to vent too. Like, so I think, saying your expectation where you're like, I just need to vent about this thing at work or this friend or this whatever, to my mom, I have to do that and be like, I'm just venting, I don't want advice. But then I called my mom this week and I was like, I need advice about work. And my mom, you know, because I'm like, you have so much life experience, like, you're my mom, like, and you're a career counselor, like, you know a lot about jobs. And so I'm like, I just need advice. And I vented to Alex, but now I'm ready for advice and I wanted to go to my mom. And that's like, and I maybe even went more in depth with my mom than I did with you about stuff, because I was like, well, now I want advice, so here's like the nitty gritty. But I think it would have been okay in that situation if I would have gone straight to my mom and not talked to Alex about it at all. I think that still would have been totally fine. So I think it's like gauging, like, does this affect my partner? But here's the game changer.
That's what I was gonna say.
If the thing happening to me at work was negatively affecting my relationship with Alex, and I chose not to say anything to him about it, even though it was affecting
or if you might lose your job, like if we were to go
to absolutely
that level, like, yeah, that's gonna
then you have to bring your partner in.
Yeah.
But if it's like, I'm struggling at work, it's not affecting my mood that much at home, and it's not affecting our life, then I think it's okay to be like, mom or friend or whatever, like, I need advice on this thing, to take it outside. I don't think you have to run everything past your partner all the time.
No.
And if anything, Alex maybe even would have liked if I would have skipped venting about work and just skipped straight to my mom. Because then it would have been handled and I would have come in and been like, I had this struggle at work, but my mom helped me figure it out. And Alex would have been like, thank you for leaving me the heck alone while I do my spreadsheets. You know? So I think I don't think you have to run everything past your partner unless it affects your relationship or your life together. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
If you're getting creative in finding how it doesn't affect your partner so you don't have to tell your partner, you should probably tell your partner.
Yeah, you're like, this doesn't affect them.
No,
You're like thinking that right now. You're like,
yeah, like if you're going through hoops in your head of like, I don't need to tell my partner and here's why, that's probably your sign.
Yeah. And I do think that there's different levels for spouse, live-in, partner versus just like, this is your boyfriend, but you don't live together, or your girlfriend or your partner, whatever. Like, I think if you're just dating, not living together, there's a lot less you have to tell them.
Oh yeah. I
don't know if that's like not allowed to say, but that's how I feel.
It's whatever you want to tell in my mind.
I think you can be as I think you can be as private as you want if you're just dating and not living together. Because if you're living together and like your income is depending on each other and you're like your mood is affecting each other, that feels more similar to marriage.
Don't keep secrets because that will affect the other person.
Yeah, but just dating, like you're not living together, I kind of think you can
don't be
do
phony, but yeah, like if you're going through something and you don't want to share it because
I don't
not
think
their business.
I don't think you're even if it's not that casual, I don't think you're like boyfriend or girlfriend that isn't, I don't know. I don't think that...
Get on a trust level that the person deserves to know what you're going through.
Yeah.
If they're not there, then don't feel obligated to share.
I feel like sometimes you start dating someone and you feel like you have to share everything, and it's like...
Here's every bad thing that I've done in the past and all the bad thoughts that I currently have.
Whoa, seriously, and that's so... isn't necessary.
Correct. If you do it, like, there's almost props to you for getting it out all on the table. Yeah. You might shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. But so if you're just dating, I think the rules change.
Yeah.
But if it's something affecting someone that you live with or that you're engaged or married to, then I think it changes.
So a thought that I wondered is like, if I'm going to individual counseling, right? Katie, I'm gonna go see my therapist, and I come back from a session and she says, hey, how did therapy go? And I say, yeah, it's good. And if she wants to pry more in a way that's like, hey, I'm kind of entitled to know what's going on, how should I respond?
I personally think like you disclose to your partner that you're going to therapy, but I think you have a right to absolutely like not disclose what you're talking about in therapy. So I think that can be private, and I would say like hypothetically, let's say you're like going to therapy and you're talking about issues you're having with your partner. I think you can. We had to switch the tapes again. We were saying if you go to therapy and you are discussing issues you have with your partner, you can keep what happens in therapy is basically what I think. Like you go to therapy, you talk to your therapist, and it can stay between the two of you until you have like a breakthrough. Like let's say you're talking about a issue you have with your partner. You're like, I don't like these things he says to me. I don't like the way he treats me, or she.
Or I'm going through trauma.
Or I'm going through trauma, like she
or even outside your partner.
Yeah, whatever it is.
I had trauma that used to affect me, and maybe it still is.
Yeah. So I think, and then I think eventually like you have to disclose things to your partner, but I think while you're working through an issue with your therapist, patient confidentiality isn't just for your therapist. I think it can be for you too, where you're like, no, like what I say in therapy is stuff that I keep there. I think that that's okay.
I would say don't use that as a cop-out to get out of a
hard discussion.
Right. I think that would be the temptation of like, what I'm going through in therapy, you know, is my business and I don't want to talk to you about it. Maybe you should talk to them about what's going on. But in general, I would agree with you on like, sometimes to get to a breakthrough, it maybe just needs to be you and your therapist.
Yeah.
But just use your best discretion.
Yeah. And you know what? Ask your therapist. You can be like,
how much of this should I share? Yeah.
Yeah. I know therapists kind of try to let you often come to your own decision. Like they try to not like always give advice, but I think that that's a okay thing to ask and be like, how much of this should I share with my partner?
And in general, therapists are going to be pretty forward with challenging you. to do something. So if they're like, no, you need to go home and have a hard conversation, they might tell you exactly that.
Yeah. All right. That is all, you guys. Folks. That's it, you guys. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have more questions for us, it could be relationship advice or something, anything at all you want us to talk about, comment on my Facebook or my Instagram or this video or whatever.
Also, stuff that we don't know about. We don't have kids. We haven't been married that long. And we're in our mid-20s.
Yeah.
So just anytime we're talking
grain
about
of salt,
stuff,
grain of salt. That's what's worked for us. Every couple's different.
For sure.
For sure. For sure.
For sure, dude.
So, but thanks for asking, and I mean, we're having fun, so.
Yep. The sex tape will be released pretty soon.
On our OnlyFans.
If you're following us on Patreon, if you are
that's where our foot
subbed on Twitch, all those places, it's gonna get kinky.
Yeah. If you're on my Twitch, people are asking me to do weird stuff, and I say, yee, no thank you. Okay, bye.